taking you down. Get me out of here!
I hope that nobody has ever had to look at anybody they love through glass.
I know Fonnie did not rape her.
Get it off me! Get it off!
This country really do not like niggas, man.
The way I described reading the novel for the first time and seeing it, the translation of it was going to be something that was faithful to the feeling I had when I first read it, this sense of awe. I wanted to bring the film into the world intact.
I'll be seeing you around.
And so I went off to Europe and I adapted Terrell McCraney's play in Moonlight Black Boys Look Blue into Moonlight, and I adapted this novel into the script, If Beale Street Could Talk.
The game has been rigged and the courts see it through. A trial is your right, but to bury you beneath the prison for forcing the judge and the DA to do their jobs is the court's right too.
I think James Baldwin matters because he told the truth, and I think the potency and the power of that truth is why he matters, and I think our film in particular is, proof positive of that.
The death itself was very simple, and the cause was simple too. The kids have been told that they weren't worth shit.
I like to say Baldwin was a man both within and outside his time. I think he was writing to the human condition, and so long as there are human beings on planet Earth, the things he was wrestling with are always going to be relevant to people who are reading his work or watching this film, hopefully.
Alonzo, we're gonna have a baby.
The narrative is about two characters named Tish and Fonnie and their love affair and their life together, which began when they were children, specifically the hardship they endure when they're about to embark on their adult life.
The sanctity, the purity of Tish and Fonnie's love is literally threatened simply by them being alive in America at the time the book is set. To be honest, it's a reflection of how Baldwin felt about his own life, especially in the time that he was raised. Being young, black, and queer in America.
I think James Baldwin was always touching on things that we were always trying to grapple with in terms of the history of America, the minds of African Americans, the minds of white folks. I think he was able to really succinctly hit upon it with his writing.
The store thought that it was very progressive to give this job to a colored girl.
My experience reading the book was nothing short of transformative, I think, in terms of what it was doing and how unfortunately relevant it was today.
To be a part of the first James Baldwin adaptation is a little bit terrifying because he's a national treasure.
So, what do you want to see me about?
I don't especially want to see you. I want to see Victoria Rogers. I'm the mother-in-law of the man she accused of rape.
I don't know anything about that.
I just hope that the Baldwin family, who has been so supportive, feel like we're honoring Mr. Baldwin's work. And the story of Tish and Fonnie. Tish and Fonnie is a classic story for anyone that is a fan of Mr. Baldwin's work.
I think there are some people in this world who are true artists, and Barry, to me, is one of those people, and I think that James Baldwin is one of those people. There are many ways in which Barry works that I think make him a truly exceptional storyteller and director.
Why don't you do the same thing at the top, but just after he yells? We're gonna go again.
The script was beautiful. I remember thinking Barry's adaptation was brilliant. It's a hard book to adapt, and he had made such careful choices. And I remember thinking at the end of reading the screenplay, oh, it's Baldwin. It's all intact. Everything he intended, the love story, the bigger messaging, the symbolism of what Beale Street in the title means.
I first read Beale Street around 2009, 2010, and I read it kind of by happenstance. By this point in my life, I considered myself like a Baldwin zealot, but I hadn't read this book as one of his lesser-known works, or it was at the time. Hopefully that's changing now. And a friend of mine who works in film said, hey, you should read this book by James Baldwin because I think there's a movie in it, and I think you're the perfect person to direct it.
Barry Jenkins loves love, and I think that's at the heart of all of his storytelling if you look at his filmography to date.
I like lying here like this.
I do too.
Love never gets old. This is something that, I don't care who you are. You can be 16, you can be 45, you can be 95. At one point in your life, you're gonna know what it's like to be in love.
I just know that I love you.
There's something natural of how they just came together. Nobody, pushed on one another. It just seemed like this sense of fate and destiny that's in their love story that's really beautiful to me.
Kiki and Stefan had instant chemistry when we put them together. With this film, the love is so potent, so pure, so lush, I would say, that the chemistry was a really big factor.
The love has always been there in a way that it's just the natural thing to do.
We were a part of each other, flesh of each other's flesh. It was no surprise to me when I finally understood that he was the most beautiful person I had seen in all my life.
I really couldn't see another Tish to be able to lead this film, and I couldn't ask for a better scene partner. This whole story is being told from her perspective, which is a very, very unique thing to not only lead it, but to narrate it in this way.
When I'm writing a script, it's a bit odd, but I very rarely see an actor as the character. It just doesn't work that way for me. So I'm always hoping that an actor will appear or walk in the door and show me who the character is. And Kiki's tape came in, and there was just something reflected the character I read on the page.
Tish just has this sweetness about her, this innocence about her that's what drew me to Tish.
And I understand what you're going through because I'm with you.
Having a child, unmarried, only 19 years old, those are all the things that's running through Tish's mind, and I know a lot of people who are going to see the film, have been there.
Baldwin spoke about this book as the 9 trimesters of pregnancy, because to him the baby was the core of it. And the baby's at the center of all these different kinds of love you're describing. Tish and Fonny have a romantic love that gives us this child. Their families have this familial love, which creates this community around it. And then there's this external pressure that's causing everyone within these different stages of love to have to, respond and react.
What's the special occasion?
You the man of the house. Stop pouring.
But of course, madame.
Tish's family is this incredible family that you just want to be around.
All right.
I think that Baldwin saw the Rivers family and Barry saw the Rivers family as the family you want, that are so loving and so supportive and really are there for each other in such a deep way.
Mama.
Yeah, baby. The Rivers family is a family that exists, but even now in 2018, when this comes out, we don't get the opportunity to see that family where the father and the mother is there and the children. Good Times was like that. That was a family in the 70s.
Y'all know we can see y'all, right?
Yeah. Don't be looking. Keep your eyes in there.
Oh, y'all nasty.
They were poor, but there was a lot of laughter in the home, music in the home. I would say the Rivers are very similar to the Evans family.
Filming it, it was really important in the casting process to cast these actors who could literally, legitimately, become a family. So casting Regina King and Coleman Domingo and Tiana Paris, if you were on set with us, you would see that they all kind of huddled around Kiki, because this is Kiki's first role. She was literally the baby of the family.
This is a sacrament. And no, I ain't lost my mind. We are drinking to new life. Tish gonna have Fonny's baby.
It's a funny thing that happens with movies. At some point, cast people in the roles of these characters, and then you can never imagine that anybody else might have played Sharon Rivers.
Regina King is this actress who I've known since I was a kid, since she was on 227.
What the hell is it, Fonny?
I don't know yet.
I like it.
Thinking of someone who is the quintessential Black matriarch of the present day, Regina King just pops into mind.
Hey, how you doing, little bit?
I love this woman.
I think Sharon Rivers represents just so many Black women during this early 70s. There are parts of her that remind me of just a combination of my aunts, my mother, my grandmother.
No, I can't help you very much right now. Lord knows what I wouldn't give if I could.
I feel like Tish, that love and innocence and everything that she has is a source of strength for the family. And so they're gonna keep encouraging and nurturing that.
Don't you go thinking I think you're some bad girl or any other foolishness like that.
They know that that child comes from love. And that's the thing that this family nurtures and encourages is love.
I hope it's a boy. That'll tickle old Frank to pieces, I bet. Joe really, he's the only man in his house. He's run by all these women, and so very much he loves his girls. He loves them, he respects them. He's kind of a feminist. I mean, especially like inspiring this young girl to like make her choices and to trust that he and his wife have given his daughters enough to make their own decisions. Do you mind if I break the news to him?
No, Daddy, I don't mind.
I just saw something in him that, again, the tape came in. I was like, oh, this guy is the dad that I wish I had. This guy is the dad that I think Tish deserves. In another way, I'm building this family. This guy is the guy that I think Sharon would marry and fall in love with.
I hope you ladies don't mind.
Mind? Frank does not care if we mind.
The dynamic between the two families, Fonny's family and Tish's family, this is a scene that I have not seen before.
Even though James Baldwin wrote it, I think he did a beautiful job of telling it from the woman's perspective and keeping it real.
I called this meeting. Fonny's gonna be a father.
Even when the Hunts come over and that friction, but still wanting to love on them and wanting to receive love from these other women, I think James did a wonderful job with that.
I think Baldwin is speaking to, in some way, the duality of his existence, both growing up inside the church and growing up outside it.
That child was born of sin. And the Holy Ghost is gonna cause it to shrivel in your womb.
Growing up with this family that is very cohesive and like what they call the nuclear family, and then having this other version of a family that's maybe a bit more chaotic.
My prayers. Oh!
Frank!
I think both the Rivers and the Hunts want ultimately what's best for the family. They just go about it a different way. There's not one way to depict a black family.
She's got a weak heart. She got a weak head. The Holy Ghost must have softened your brain, child. Did she forget that that was Frank's grandchild she was cursing? These 6 women square off with each other, and it's just really interesting to see just how colorful we all can be, especially when you feel like your back is up against the wall.
Fonny ain't never been worth a damn, so who is going to raise this baby?
I am, you dried up yellow cunt. And you keep on talking, I'll take mighty good care of you.
Adrienne, baby.
We have all of our personalities, and those are the hardest to film because there's so many people. Just the essence of being with everyone and getting to play off of everybody's circumstances, that's always fun for me. Ernestine, you know she's strong. You don't have to think twice about what this woman knows and what she feels.
Unbow your head, sister.
Tish, her strength is very much a quiet, centered. She's learning how to be strong. She's learning what it takes and what becoming a woman means.
When it's time to protect Tish, like, Ernestine is the one who gets on the Hunts about how they've disrespected their family, disrespected Tish. Like, Ernestine has that fire that, you know, can really, Ernestine to mess something up for Tish, you know?
Ever since the first day I laid eyes on your very fine person, I got caught up in your Adam's apple. Oh, I've been dreaming about it. And I can't tell whether I want to tear it out with my fingers or my teeth. And if you touch my baby sister, I'm gonna have to make up my mind real quick.
There's always this one person in the family who kind of has like the loud mouth, you know, and yet is also very protective, you know, and very compassionate. And Tiana, as a person, exhibited those qualities, but could also, on a dime, become like this very fierce, protective, I want to say, sister bear.
My girls ain't gonna be bringing no bastards home to feed. I can tell you that.
That's because won't nobody fuck Ernestine.
read the script for the first time, I then bought the book and read it, and the book has a surprising amount of insight about the makeup. I mean, it even describes visual makeup on the Hunt family, on Fonny's family, and talks about being able to see the makeup on them. It's kind of incredible, like what makeup and hair can tell you about a person's values. Fonny's two sisters have these long manicures, which to me says that they go to the salon and pay to get their nails done, and that's where they're putting their money towards their appearance, not towards the lawyer, not towards Fonny.
I dissected and highlighted every part of that book. Baldwin is so descriptive of costume, of clothing, and we wanted it to be indicative of the period. We wanted to capture the period.
This is really a very simple hairstyle film, but it's very meaningful. It was written with dignity and love, and this was a very trying time in Harlem at this time. For Tish, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburn and Diane Carroll were my two incentives. The young lady Kiki that plays Tish, she and I have created a design for her. She has two variations in her looks. Her everyday look, which is just a Harlem girl out there taking care of herself and looking after this fellow that she's in love with. And then she's working as a saleswoman in the perfume department. And I take and recreate her and give her a more sophisticated look. She's like a little chameleon.
I stand behind that counter all day long, smiling till my back teeth ache.
And then when she comes away from that, she goes back to her regular Tish, which is a beautiful black girl with just hair that's wild and beautiful. To see Harlem, especially at this day and time, this was a very poor place to be at this time.
When you first heard,
Right there?
what I love about working with that group, we actually, Mark Friedberg, our production designer, actually found a brownstone in Harlem that was in the process of being renovated. The place was gutted. And so we built it from scratch, with input from every department, from the cast, things like that.
Barry's goal was to bring Baldwin's vision to life. I'm fairly sure that we all feel like we're trying very much to honor what was written.
Mark Friedberg, our production designer, was by far the most experienced person on set, born and raised New Yorker, and a big Baldwin fan. The Rivers family was this place of love and caring and affection and empathy, and he wanted the physical space to reflect that feeling as well. So everything down to the wallpaper, the couch, like all those things were very well thought out, and I say chosen as a reflection of the characters.
The main thrust of the narrative is the money. They need money to pay the lawyer. We don't have enough money to bail Fonny out. We need money to go to Puerto Rico. We need money, we don't have money. Poverty is at the core of what this story's about, but that is economic poverty. This same family has an incredible depth of emotional riches. And so the story isn't about poverty. The story is set in a world of poverty, but the story is about resilience, and the story is about hope.
Thank you, God, for the food we're about to eat, and for all of our blessings, and we have a seed, and for my daddy, in Jesus' name, amen.
When you build a score, there's all these themes that emerge. And what Nick and I did on Moonlight was what we call chopped and screwed, where we would take a song, because we have these three stages of our main character's life. Every time you move to another stage, he evolves. And so we take the same cue and we would evolve it slightly through this process of slowing things down, adjusting the pitch, and things like that. In this film, we wanted to take that to a whole other place, primarily because the experience is so singular for Tish, and there's this duality between the lush romance, like the joy in the film, and the systemic oppression. The way the external forces can take the same feeling on one hand and repurpose them to a much darker effect. There's music throughout the film that, if you really listen to it, is taken from the same element. When Tish and Fonny first make love, that's a song called Eros, and it's a very big song. There's like this cellos and tremolos, it's like very lush, it fills the room. And then later there's a song that kind of plays, when Stefan James and Brian Tyree are having this conversation, basically this character Daniel Carcardi is kind of like descending into this PTSD pit of madness before our eyes.
And look, I'm lucky that I only got 2 years, because when you in there, they can do with you whatever they want. You hear me? Whatever they want.
And then you hear this rumble.
And they dogs, man. You know, I found out in the slammer Malcolm and them cats was talking about. The white man has got to be the devil.
It's the same melody from the lovemaking. But now, because it's been taken from here to here, that melody just has a whole different feeling.
The worst thing. The worst thing is that they can make you so fucking scared.
This thing that can be so pure and full of joy in one scenario can then exhibit itself in the same form, but be completely just taken to this much darker, corrosive place.
You cats hungry?
Yeah. It's not easy being a black man in this country. And I feel like Daniel kind of embodies this pocket of us that wants to see the good and wants to experience the good, wants to share the good that's already within us. But somehow, the just weight of the world, it drops on his shoulders, you know?
In the book, this character, Daniel Cardi, serves almost as this idea of what could become of Fonny's fate.
I just got out the slammer, baby. 2 years. They said, they still say that I stole a car. I mean, yeah, I had a little bit of pot on me when they grabbed me, but man, I don't even know how to drive a car, Fonny.
We needed an actor who could span the whole spectrum of experience that these two characters go through over the course of this conversation. When these guys first meet on the sidewalk, you know, this character is very jovial, he's bantering and bickering, and then they go back to his apartment. I love conversations between people that are about one thing on the surface, but very quickly you realize they're about something completely different.
I think it's Daniel's first time of really expressing the fear that he had inside, the fear of knowing that there was no one for him, the fear that he didn't even think he would make it, and the fear of what the color of his skin could have done to him inside. You know, whatever's in me, I ain't put it there. I damn sure can't take it out.
We wanted the audience to feel what it's like for two men to meet, and there's this thing where whenever you meet, you go, "How you doing, man?" "I'm good." Whether you're good or not good, the default answer is, "I'm good." But if you spend enough time together, slowly, "I'm good" reveals itself for what it really is, you know? I'm good, but there's this, there's this, there's this. And so we tasked Stefan and Brian with the job of, okay, when you meet, you're good. And then over the course of the scene, we need the audience to really feel that you're actually not good.
How long you been out, man? About 3 months. It's bad, man.
And then we need to go to this place where we can see that this is what lies ahead for Fonny.
You need to listen.
Listen to what? That lawyer don't give a shit about me. He don't give a shit about nobody. You want me to die in here? You know what's happening to me? To me in here? I think what Baldwin just serves to do is to really just show the truly visceral and raw side of what it's like to have a connection between someone that may look like you or may not look like you, that may have lived in the same area you lived in and who may not have lived in the same area you lived in. And to realize that that thread is common between us, but to also really, really, really lay into the differences as well, to lay into the injustices as well, to lay into just this dichotomy of life in this country
and how just strong and thick and present it is.
This story is still very relevant. It could take place today and make complete sense. You wouldn't have to change anything. We're talking about police brutality, we're talking about police corruption.
I mean, the fact that this is the first adaptation of a Baldwin novel is criminal, really. This is a great writer of our times, a man that was speaking for the people and telling stories that were necessary to be heard.
It's poetry in prose, and yet it's incredibly visceral and raw and furious. He does not pull any punches in anything, and yet at the same time it's beautiful and lyrical.
I think a lot of people are unaware that he even wrote something like this. But when you read it, it's this beautiful love story, but still so very much James Baldwin, the way that he describes what's going on in the community and describes, you know, black and white relationships and even relationships within the black community. So how he interweaves that into the story, but it's still a love story. Like, that is never, you know, outweighed by all of the injustices and everything that he does still talk about in that very just smart James Baldwin way.
He has his own like language in a way that's really, really interesting, and it's vivid and it's honest. That still seems to have a glimmer of light and hope, which I feel like people will really, really connect with and appreciate.
You ready for this?
I've never been more ready for anything in my whole life.